What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new Resident Evil Village DLC kind of theory video. Today we're going to be going over probably the most requested character from the game in terms of, future content, and that is Lady Dimitrescu, the big vampire lady, as everyone likes to say. There is a lot of talk with her as a character, saying that she's not in it enough, and people want to see more of her in DLC. I personally believe she's in it just the right amount. At the end of the day, she's not the main villain, and there's 4 lords in the game, so you kind of have to space them out evenly. Yes, the castle is probably one of the longer parts of the game, along with the factory, but you kind of have to. There's 4 to 5 main enemies, so you have to kind of share them out equally. But we're going to go over the DLC ideas I have for her as a character, along with some involvement from her daughters as well. And without any further ado, let's just jump into what I have potentially thought that could come to the game in the future. Okay, so I'm going off the same kind of idea that I kind of mentioned in the Crisp video. I feel like a lot of the DLC, especially with this character more specifically because of the events of the game, the DLC should either be set within the events of the game or prior to the events of the game. Now, because of her involvement in the main story, you kind of see her, deal with her, and carry on. There's not really an idea to kind of add her in as DLC that's kind of linked to the main part of the game, because it's a specific sequence of the game, and then it ends, like it's finished after that. So with her case, DLC would be kind of most likely set before Ethan's arrival into the village, and there's plenty of ideas you can go from. I have 2 bigger ideas that I want to go off of, and we're going to discuss those now. So first up, we have the horror idea that I have. If you played Village, you'll know that there's not a drastic amount of horror in the game, and they did say when the game came out that they toned it down a bit because people found 7 a little too scary, which is kind of an interesting take because I didn't find it too scary. A couple of jump scares here and there, but it's not terribly scary. But either way, they toned it down. They kind of threw all the horror into one section, and you know exactly what I'm talking about there. But some form of horror DLC would be cool for the game. My idea is, if you pay attention to how Dimitrescu works, you'll know that her powers are dependent on the intake of blood. More specifically, male blood. That's what I know male villagers around. They're either lichens or dead, and that's essentially her power source. They mention it a couple of times in the game, and there is kind of some lore tabs in the game that kind of reference that. But what you could do is have the character play as just any of the male villagers really in the game. Maybe it's a character they just make up, because a lot of the male villagers you see in the game do kind of meet their demise in other ways. But you could make a fully fleshed out character of a male villager who has essentially been captured, like, for example, the Maiden demo. Like, you play as just a slave woman trying to escape, but add a bit more emphasis to it. Actually have her wandering around, and maybe even her daughters, and you have to kind of avoid them and try and escape. I feel like that would make some really good tension, really good horror, because of just how they move, like they come through walls and stuff like that in the game, which would be super cool. And then maybe open up more areas of the castle. The castle's huge, and you do technically in the long run play in a small portion of it. So having other open areas in the castle would be a really nice breath of fresh air. But yeah, definitely has some empathy. I'm not even going to try and say that word again. Trying to add some more kind of focus onto a horror aspect in some DLCs, because when they do horror, they do it really well. Like, look at the whole Donna section of the game. First time through, it's genuinely spooky. Obviously, prior runs through, you kind of know what to expect. But the first time going through that, I was genuinely creeped out, and it makes perfect sense as to why when you get to the end of the area. But yeah, horror needs to be not a focus of the DLC, but it needs to be one. If they make multiple DLCs, one at least needs to be horror focused, I would say. So yeah, a brief recap of what I believe the first idea could be. A random male villager trying to escape the castle, no weapons, maybe a knife, something like that. No weapons, no guns. Maybe some more puzzles. There is a few puzzles in the main game, and they're not particularly difficult. One of them is literally guessing until you get it right. and then the others you can kind of easily remember. So it has more like kind of in-depth puzzles like the old school Resident Evil games have. Maybe even make like a multiple endings. You know, maybe you remember the if you remember the Daughters DLC for 7. Obviously there was a canon ending, which was what actually happened, and then there's like a bad ending. Do that. You know, give the player some options. Like, I'm all for options when they make sense, like in DLCs, but I'm glad they kind of veered away from the options in this game in the main story, especially the one in 7 between Mia and Zoe. Like, it's such a weird option to have, and it's clearly obvious you would go for. So, you know, but yeah, that's my first idea. A horror-focused, puzzle-focused, spooky portion of the castle featuring Lady D and her daughters kind of hunting you down. Maybe there's certain mechanics they can put in, you know, like, say there's a few slaves running around. Like a few of these enemies, not like loads of them, when they hit you and you bleed and they can smell it, and they kind of like hone into that area, and you kind of need to find like a healing thing to fix yourself really quickly, else they'll find you. Something like that would be pretty cool, but again, I'm just kind of throwing ideas out. Let me know what you think of like a horror-based DLC for Lady D and her daughters down in the comments. But now we'll move on to the second idea I have. Now this second idea is a potential to not happen at all. I think it'd be pretty cool to see, but because I've definitely done it before in previous games where you play as like the monsters. So it has been done before, not often, but it is done. The example I'm trying to look at is, this is a long shot if anyone's ever played the game, but I'd assume if you're a Resident Evil fan you've probably played it. Evil Within, the first game, was made by the director of the original Resident Evil games, so it has the same vibe, and they did the DLC called The Executioner, where it was like a mini game really, but you played as this like ever lingering presence from the main game, and it was cool. It was a nice change of pace, and you were literally unstoppable. Maybe it's not story focused, maybe it's like an extra mode, but maybe you could play as, you know, either one of the 3 daughters or Lady D. I don't really know what you would do specifically. I don't really know why you would do it, but I'm just trying to figure out an idea for it in my head a bit more like fleshed out. But maybe give the player an option to play as one of these characters. It's unlikely, I know, because it kind of takes the whole tone of the game and flips it around. But people want to see more of this character, clearly. Like, you look on the internet every single day and they'll be like, we need a DLC for Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters, or we need more of them. So there is potential that that's what they want to do because it has the most demand. I personally kind of don't mind who it is and what it is. Like, I'm just glad the DLC is coming out. But yeah, maybe a DLC, you know, where it flips the tables and you play as one of them, doing who knows what. Like, I'll have to kind of ask you for that. But if you did want to see a DLC where you played as those characters, what would you want to be doing? Like, I'm interested. I'm just interested to see what you want to be doing if you had the option to play as one of them in a DLC. So do let me know about that. It's a very interesting concept, I think, if they did decide to do something like that. But yeah, that's going to about wrap it up for Lady D and her potential DLC. I did want to kind of focus in on some of the daughters and maybe do a DLC based on those, but the demand is clear that everyone wants the tall lady to be the DLC. Will they do it? It's very, very possible, just purely based on like the fan reaction to the character and how much love the character has, even if she's in the game for very little time. Which is kind of like I did see this online, and someone did say that the game sucks because she's not in it enough, and I think that's complete bullshit. Like, again, like I said earlier, you know, there's 4 lords and a boss. You need to focus on each of them individually and kind of share the time. If she was the main villain of the game, I don't feel like it would have been as good, because what I loved about the trailers for this game so much is they showed Lady D obviously as like the kind of poster for these trailers, and that was very early parts of the game, and that's really good marketing, I think. Like, you are literally showing the first couple hours of the game and nothing else. It really like kind of adds surprise to the rest of the game, which is really cool. But yeah, that's my ideas. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you can think of something different. Let me know if you think my horror thing is pretty cool, which I think is pretty cool. I'll be honest, I made it up. It's my idea, although someone else has probably said it somewhere, but who knows. Anyway, that's going to do it. I apologise if my voice is just horrible today. If you are living in England like me, it is unbelievably hot, so sitting in this room and doing recording is quite difficult. But I still have videos coming out every day. By the time this video goes up, it is indeed my birthday, so happy birthday to me, I guess. I'll be spending the day just, with family and stuff like that. So, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and, again, any thoughts down below, please leave them, because I am very interested in having conversations with all of you about, Resident Evil in general, and stuff like that. Tomorrow's video will be something a little bit different, kind of a discussion of a potential game that people want to see return in the Resident Evil series, which is very interesting. But then obviously, every other day there'll be a DLC kind of theory video like this. And then, and again, a weekends I stream. So, if you want to see any of those videos, or you want to see any of those streams, be sure to subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss a single thing. Uploads every single day, streams every weekend. It's all good times. So thank you all for watching. Have a good day. If you're in England, stay safe, drink water, all that kind of stuff. Do not get affected by the heat, because it sucks, and it's horrible right now. But yeah, I'll leave you all here now. I'll see you all tomorrow.